This is my review of the Byrds album Preflyte. It was released in 1969, produced by Jim Dixon. You can probably hear my neighbor's music over there on this, like they're playing music obnoxiously loud, and it's kind of coming through the walls right now, so yeah, sorry about that. Anyway, so yeah, this is the only Byrds album, I think, other than I can't remember, one of the live albums, I can't remember what it's called. But this is the only Byrds album other than that live album that I didn't buy in my initial run of buying all the Byrds albums. So I'm relatively new to this album. I think I got it like a year ago at the record store. I picked this up. I guess this version's from like the 70s or something with this goofy cover. There's this other one with like the Nest too, which I guess is also kind of goofy, but this one's just kind of really ridiculous. They all look really strange on it. Hillman doesn't even look like Hillman back there. But I haven't listened to this a whole lot. I probably listened to it like 5 or 6 times right out of the gate when I first got it, and then kind of put it up and haven't listened to it much since. I really don't listen to a lot of records right now because my cat's really young and she likes to try to attack them. She almost took this one out earlier today, so it's like if I put a record on, I kind of gotta watch her the whole time, so that's a little annoying, so I just haven't been doing it. But anyway, yeah, as far as the album goes, so I read this story once. I think it was in the Johnny Rogan Byrds book, which is where I get a lot of like my information from. So if the book's wrong, then I'm kind of wrong. But anyway, yeah, I read this story where apparently Crosby didn't want to like release these, and he kind of got talked into it by Graham Nash, who called it like charming baby pictures. And that's really, I think, kind of the best way to describe this album. It's like the charming baby pictures of the Byrds, kind of getting to hear the Byrds become the Byrds or learn how to be the Byrds or whatever. I guess there's another version with more tracks on it, or like a newer version called like the Sessions or something. And I haven't really looked into getting that. I probably will at some point, so if I do, I'll review that version. But this is just kind of the short version of it. So a lot of the tracks on here are also on, I believe all of them are off Tambourine Man. I don't think there's any like double shelf ones that, well, no, there might be one from Turn, but I'm not sure. Off the top of my head at least. So like most of the tracks on this album were written by Gene Clark. I'll kind of mention when they weren't, like when that's the case, but a lot of these are, I kind of already talked about on the other albums. They're just in a different version here. Pretty much everything on here, like to me the recording quality of it doesn't sound like horrible, but it's not like great either. I mean, I don't know much about like what these were made for, but I assume they were demos. Jim Dixon, I'm pretty sure, was their manager, like their first manager. And I know he did some like production stuff. Like I don't really know if he had like a background in production. But I know he produced like the live stuff, I'm pretty sure, on their Untitled album, which I think sounds really good. He produced Burrito Brothers Burrito Deluxe, which doesn't sound very good. But then he did their Blue album, which does sound good. So I guess this is kind of like, I've heard those all before listening to this as far as his like production goes. But I mean, I guess it's not too fair to like judge his production that much because I don't think this like stuff was meant to be released really. But yeah, the first, I'm kind of rambling, sorry, it's really late, it was a long day at work. But the first track, You Showed Me, it's McGuinn Clark. This one, I don't think is on anything else but this, and it's a good song. Short, don't really have much to say about it, but it's a strong opener. Second track, Here Without You, which is on Tambourine Man, and yeah, it's a cool version of the song, but it doesn't really stand up to the version on Tambourine Man. Third track, She Has a Way, pretty much like the same goes for it as the one before. It's interesting to hear it like in this early stage, but it's not as good as the version on the album later. It's interesting for me to hear Gene Clark's voice on this album because like listening to him here and his voice on like later stuff they did or that he did, he has this really just cool quality to his voice that I feel like is kind of lost on like the Melcher produced albums of Tambourine Man and Turn, Turn, Turn. And I don't know exactly like why that is, but to me it just doesn't, like, I don't know, he doesn't quite sound like himself on those albums. Like his voice sounds smoother, and just less like, it doesn't have like the qualities that make his voice like what it is on some of these other, but like here he has it. I don't know, there's just this certain like, I don't know, like a certain quality to his voice that it just is kind of lacking on Tambourine Man and Turn, 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 I feel like. The fourth track, The Reason Why, I like this. I kind of wish that this track had been done on like a Melcher produced album and kind of had that production treatment, because I think it would sound good with it. And kind of the same goes with the fifth track, For Me Again. Sixth track, Boston. This one kind of short, and I don't find it like that memorable or that great as like compared to the other Gene songs on the album. It's not like horrible or anything, but not my favorite track on here. The seventh track, You Movin'. This one kind of, I don't know, it's not bad. I like it. I kind of like the McGuinn solo on it. It's kind of like sloppy, but I don't know. A lot of these songs, like, I wish that they had kind of the production of like their actual albums and not just kind of like demo-y production. Eighth track, The Airport Song by McGuinn and Crosby. I'm pretty sure it's sung by Crosby, and it's cool. Not exactly like the most memorable thing on here. It's not like quite as hooky as the Gene Clark songs. Ninth track, You Won't Have to Cry. Pretty much, it's on that, or Tambourine Man, I believe, and the next track, I Knew I'd Want You, is also on that, and like both those tracks, well, either that or Turn Turn. I can't remember like which songs or which album some of these songs are on off the top of my head, because like the first two albums to me kind of blend together a little bit some. But yeah, those two songs, pretty much the same goes for them as the rest. They're not any better here than they are on those albums, but they're still worth listening to because it's interesting to hear them in like this stage of their development. And then the final track, Mr. Tambourine Man, is probably the most interesting on here because the actual Byrds, other than Roger, didn't get to play on it instrumentally. So here you get to hear what their version sounded like, and it is really different. Michael Clark's doing this weird kind of like a military snare thing, and I don't know though. I don't dislike it. I think it's interesting. It's obviously not going to like replace their original version for me, but it's cool to hear. And also Gene Clark, like I can't really hear Gene Clark at all on their other studio version, like vocally, but here you hear him kind of singing with McGuinn, so that's interesting. So yeah, Preflyte, like I said, I think the best kind of analogy for it, it's like charming baby pictures. You get to see the Byrds becoming the Byrds. I wouldn't like start here as I would like go through all their albums and then go back to this as like more of a curiosity, because it's just like, it doesn't sound horrible to me, but it's just kind of raw, kind of sloppy. There's some mistakes, things like that. So yeah, it's just more interesting like as a curiosity, I feel like, than as an album to listen to all the time.